Was introduced to Zing Performance through a longtime friend of mine who is actually based in France. He came across the program through other people, thought I would be very interested in it, introduced it to me, and I fell in love with the program almost instantly. The research that's behind this program is phenomenal, and the results are just as outstanding. I'll give you a couple of prime examples. I've got an Olympic caliber weightlifter who increased his overhead squat or not his overheads, his clean jerk and snatch by about 8 kilograms on each side. And I had another high performance CrossFitter who increased her overhead squat by 25 pounds in 3 months, almost solely responsible for Zing. More equally impressive to that is I have another patient of mine who we're treating for his PTSD. He's a retired OPP officer, and the changes in him are remarkable in 3.5 months. So I've seen some absolutely astounding results with these programs.
Absolutely. I mean, Zing was born out of over 25 years of research into the cerebellum and its influence on human performance. Not just physical coordination, but also cognitive, emotional, behavioral function. Originally, it was developed in the UK by Winford Dorr and a team of neuroscientists and educators. The program was built to target underdeveloped areas of the brain through specific movement patterns grounded in neuroplasticity. We've since evolved into a global platform operating into over 20 countries with applications ranging from cognitive development in children to neurorehabilitation, senior wellness, and peak athletic performance. At our core, Zing is about helping individuals unlock potential by strengthening the foundation of the brain. We're truly the brain-body connection. Yeah, there's a great deal. The cerebellum, many may or may not know. The cerebellum is one of the smallest parts of the brain in the back of the head. But while it's the smallest in size, it has or contains about 80% of our brain cells and about 80% of our neural pathways. And what's interesting as well is it is the last part of the brain, or the last part of the entire human body, that stops growing at 22 years old. And it really creates automation. So by building neuroplasticity and it's connecting with other parts of the brain and automating processes, which increases mental capacity. So as you can tell, when you can do that, it's going to help kids in school. It's going to help athletes. It's going to help seniors. Because when you're building automation and you're freeing up mental capacity, the body will be able to do things regularly. Like when we all walked into our office for this Zoom meeting today, we didn't have to think about how to walk, how to sit in a chair, and how to, turn on the computer. That's all automated. And that's stored in our cerebellum, and the processes are done with the cerebellum. So it really is a unique way to build cognitive performance. In addition, as you mentioned, one of the key roles of the cerebellum is to emotional control, where it truly does, in fact, help develop emotional control, which is not only important for kids, teens, adults, but athletes. If you're a golfer or a rugby player or a baseball player or a hockey player, when you can automate processes and do things with ease rather than thinking about it or getting frustrated or stressed, it makes the level of performance is just far greater. First, we have 4 programs to choose from, all of which have our proprietary cerebellum stimulation exercise platform. But they're all geared towards the individual's particular needs. As Chris indicated, he's working with some athletes or perhaps veterans with PTSD. There are certain programs designed for those individuals. While we're optimizing the cerebellum, some of the assessments would be different, some of the modules may be different, but ultimately the goal is to increase cognitive performance, reduce and normalize stress and anxiety. And when it comes to athletic therapists, when I think about it and I talk to Chris and doing my research, because certainly I'm nowhere near as an expert as Chris, is I think the 2 areas that are probably the most impactful in my perspective, and I would love to hear Chris, is probably neuromechanical recovery and optimization. I mean, everything we do with Zing is optimizing. So athletic therapists understand that injuries, are not, purely orthopedic. Often have a neurological component. Zing helps improve motor planning, proprioception, balance by training the cerebellum, accelerates recovery, and can even reduce injury recurrence. And then I would probably say the second one is more likely performance consistency and emotional control or emotional regulation. Whether it's a youth baseball player or youth athlete or elite performer or PGA golfer, the difference between a good and great performance is often mental. Zing trains the brain to regulate stress, improve focus, support consistency under pressure, something athletic therapists are constantly helping clients manage, I believe.
John was talking about, I think from an athletic therapist standpoint specifically, I mean, we're treating athletes, at the universities and also minor league sports and stuff like that. So there's a whole bunch of applications as far as athletics go. And then to the athletic therapists who are working in clinics, we're talking about dealing with people who've been in motor vehicle accidents, who are people who have head injuries or just are wounded or weekend warriors, as we put them. The 60-year-old who's got a bad back and stuff like that. These programs help everybody at every level. So on both aspects, whether we're dealing specifically with athletes in sports or we're working with the general public, as John said, there's a program for everybody. And even beyond that, I'm talking right now with a husband and wife who are both competitive marathoners, but their son has just been diagnosed with ADHD and pretty severe ADHD. So the first thing we're trying to do now is we're going to get him onto the Holloway Brain Health system. So his parents are on SerapFit, their son is going to be on Holloway. So the platform itself is expansive for an entire family or an entire population.
Yeah, as Chris mentioned, I mean, the Hollowell Brain Health Program for ADHD, and what our listeners or individuals involved in what we're doing should be aware of is what we did was we partnered with Dr. Edward Hollowell, or Ned Hollowell. He's arguably the world's leading authority in ADHD. He's written 25 books on ADHD, has 4 clinics, and he's actually been using cerebellum stimulation exercises for over 20 years. In fact, in his book ADHD 2.0, the entire chapter 3 is on Zing and the cerebellum. So the ADHD really offers a tremendous way to focus on the root causes of ADHD and treat those root causes, not mimic the conditions.
I did the whole program in about 14 hours, somewhere in that range. I don't really put an importance on one of the modules versus the other. I think they're all important because they're all linked to each other. So I think the way I did it is you start at the beginning and work your way through, because they're all excuse me, but they're all incredibly educational, but the amount of information you get in them is just tremendous. And the way they link together and teach you what this program and what these programs do is impressive. It really is. One of the things that I really want to stress to the listeners about Zing Performance that impresses me the most is when you're on the program, if you miss a day, right, you get an email from Zing Performance say, hey, you missed a day, where'd you go, what happened, right? It's very polite, but it's, hey, we're looking at you. And then the other thing it's really different than any other platform I've seen in a number of years is everybody wants to go with an app and go digital, but you can't get a hold of a person. Zing Performance has people, actual human beings on the other end that will call you, that will talk with you. Your coach will call you. It's a person. And I think that's huge in today's day and age. I think directly as a client base that's coming into a clinic or into one of the clinics in universities is, first of all, the unique nature of these programs, and the breadth of which they can treat their athletes, their parents, their children, everybody, their uniqueness, and the fact that they work. This is not a fly-by-night organization. I have seen hundreds of different modalities and new things to try, and they're just, they're here today, they're gone 6 weeks from now. This program has been around, it's proven, it's based solely in silence, and the results are amazing. So it really does provide something for everybody, and something that we've been missing for a long time in athletic therapy.
I think that's a great question, and I mean, for balance, the cerebellum targeted exercises are designed to improve sensory integration and postural control. We've seen measurable improvements in stability and gait across all age groups, from age 7 all the way to seniors and professional athletes. In terms of, I think it was stamina and strength conditioning, I mean, many overlook the cerebellum's role in energy regulation and movement efficiency. When the brain is working optimally, the body moves more efficiently, reducing unnecessary energy expenditure and improving total endurance. So I think it really does help mental fatigue, if you want to say that, which relates to more energy. And for concussion care, I mean, this is something very near and dear to us. This is where Zing really shines in my point of view. Traditional recovery often focuses on rest and symptomatic management. Zing adds that layer of proactive neurorehabilitation, helping retrain brain systems involved with visual processing, motor control, autonomic regulation, basically commonly affected post-concussion. And when clients tell us is that Zing gives us back a sense of their control, because they can see their progress and feel it in their day-to-day performance and well-being. I mean, the brain-body connection is enormously important. Again, whether you're a kid playing baseball or in school, a senior that's involved with maintaining their independence, because some of the key things with seniors is maintaining working memory, memory recall, and balance and coordination to keep that independence and live by, on their own. And with athletes, that's that difference. If you're an elite athlete, that slight difference between having the brain-body connection. Let's face the facts. You can have a great athletic therapist, you can have a great coach, you can have great training, but if you're missing that brain-body connection, the opportunity from great to elite that's the difference that it brings. So I do think overall it's a tool that can be utilized many ways to help the breadth of clients for OATA and CATA.
Just to add on to what John is saying, I mean, let's face it, as a therapist, there's no way for me to get my hands onto the cerebellum or the brain, right? I can work on a concussion, neck, shoulders all day long, and I get results a little bit. But this program allows us to work on their brain, right, in a very, very effective manner. And it's the only one I've ever seen.
Key things about the cerebellum, which I hope everyone understands, but I will make this point, that when I talk about automation and the root cause, think about when we all learned how to ride a two-wheel bike when we age 5. And you get a driver's license, so you stick the bike in the garage. But 20 years later, you can pull the bike out and still ride it. That's the cerebellum. So the point I'm making is these changes that occur are lifelong changes. That's that automation that's the cerebellum creating. So the brain doesn't have to think about how to do certain things, it's automated. So it's lifelong changes after the impact. That's part of the reason why we have a minimum of 90 days for each one of our programs, because we know in 90 days that they will obtain anywhere between 70 or 90% cognitive improvement in at least 5 out of 8 areas. But we also know that within 90 days, it becomes hardwired in the brain, which is that lifelong automation process. So the nice part of that is Chris can take one of those programs and build it into a care plan of one of his patients, and it could be fully integrated in how Chris wants to treat that individual. And that's important because for us, it's important to partner with healthcare providers that can use it, because I'm not an expert in athletic therapy. Chris should be able to take what we've done and incorporate it within his expertise to help his patients. And that's why we had the model and built the apps to where they were completely self-guided, but open for providers as well as our team to support the providers or the individuals.